Good morning. In my last presentation, I left rather abruptly, and I left for a reason. I basically wanted my viewers to really think about what I was saying. I was addressing my mugshot here to young males in Canada, young males between the ages of 13 and 20, basically, who probably would like to identify with manhood and would like to be thought of as men and would like to even think of themselves as being men. And I told them under no uncertain terms that that's illegal in Canada. You're not allowed to do that anymore. And I said some rather harsh things, maybe. Harsh, but not necessarily false. And essentially, yeah, that's the case. And I gave a listed a couple of reasons as why that is the case in Canada, where you are not allowed to be a man anymore. I touched on the military, and I touched on owning your own land. And essentially what it came down to is that I was saying that there is nothing in Canada anymore that is exclusive to men. Excuse me here. I always get a little choked up when I talk about this, because it's the case and it's very real and it's a sign of our times, and I really think this is something that needs to be looked at. If young males have nothing that they can call their own, strictly male, I mean strictly male in every regard, then they have nothing to aim for with respect to their gender. And some think, well, so what? This is not a big deal. I don't even know how to address that or even dignify that. The young man or the young woman can laugh at me for this, but if they ever come to any level of maturity in their life, they will realize why it is important for young women to identify with being women, and why it's important for young men to identify with being men. Not necessarily male or female, but men and women. But yes, being male and being female is contingent upon your genetics, and there's no getting around it. If you're a man, you're male. If you're a woman, you're female, and there is a difference. In fact, the difference is so great that every cell in your body is either a male cell or a female cell. Genetics has proven it time and time again. And without this incredible distinction, there is no continuation of the species. It is essential for males and females both to exist. And for that reason, I also believe that there should be things that are exclusive to females and things that are exclusive to males. And being a man essentially really means being a mature male. And being a woman essentially means being a mature female. Now, you can be physically mature. I mean, that is a process that's also wired right into your DNA. But just being physically mature doesn't make you, in my estimation, a real man or a real woman. In that regard, Canada has not outlawed that process. They haven't made nature illegal to that extent yet. But I believe they're working on it. I believe I believe the global elite are actually working on making it illegal to be natural. And that's what I'm sort of, warning young men about. Now, yeah, there should be women out there doing the same. They should be doing likewise concerning the young girls and ladies who desire to be real women. Not just physically mature. I mean, just because she has the anatomy of a fully developed female does not make her a full-fledged woman. No, not in my books. Okay? And then we can take it one step further. We can take it from boyhood to manhood, and from manhood to being a gentleman. I don't know, I might get shot for saying this. But I believe it's okay to be a gentleman. I know that there are probably many females on the circuit who are aware of me and have some idea of who I am that would say that I am hardly a gentleman. And to some extent, I would agree with them. I'm sorry, ladies, if that's what you consider yourselves to be. But it's illegal for me to be a gentleman here in Canada. And it's probably, I would say in my estimation, more illegal to be a gentleman in Canada than it is to be a man in Canada. And I can assure you that it is very much illegal to be a man in Canada today. It's illegal. If you are actually a true man, not just a male, but a man in Canada, you are flirting with disaster. Any guy who wants to be a true full-fledged man in Canada is they're gambling with their very life. They're gambling with their life. And well, I know some of you are going to say, how so? I'll just straighten the screen out just a little bit here, if I may, before I proceed. There's one pet peeve I have, and that's having your head chopped off at the top. That always just annoys me. Whether it's still pictures, live pictures, or whatever. I mean, if I'm going to give you a talking head, then I should give you a talking head, not half a head or a head chopped off or something like that. That just annoys me. Yeah, I've got the pillow there in the background on the couch for the girls, and they wake up, sometimes they just lay down on the couch and I give them a pillow. I take good care of my girls, I think of them. I think about their comfort. I think about, they have peace of mind. It's very important for a young growing child to have that, and I would feel much the same way if I had a young son, that he slept in peace, and that he had peace of mind, and that he was okay, and that his needs were met. It's actually the mark of a loving father, by the way, and that too is also being outlawed in Canada. There's a lot of things being outlawed in Canada. A lot of men are working hard trying to provide for their homes and be good husbands, but they're not aware of all these laws being passed. And so, they're oblivious to what's going on. I'm an older man and I get to stay on top of things and watch things and see how they're being done. And I know they're making it illegal to be a full-fledged man in Canada, and that's why I made my first video and addressing it to young men. Please understand, young males, and if there are any young men out there, they're very rare, by the way, young men, full-fledged men, very rare. See, you don't have the rite of passage anymore. It's illegal to have a rite of passage. You can't even have Boy Scouts Canada. How are you going to have a rite of passage here? Boy Scouts Canada is illegal. There is no Boy Scouts Canada. If you try to start a Boy Scouts Canada, you're going to come up against the law for it. I guarantee you. You dare to start up the traditional Boy Scouts of Canada again, and you're going to find yourself facing legislation. No, we just have Scouts Canada. I believe there's still Girl Guides. Of course, there'd still be Girl Guides. Do you see the double standard here? Do you see what I'm talking about? And the reason for that is, again, they don't want males to identify with their gender. They're trying to eliminate that. And they're also trying to eliminate young boys from ever identifying with the idea of manhood. And because there is really very few, I can't think of any rites of passage anymore. It's not hunting, it's not sports, it's not fishing. That's just as much woman's territory as it's male territory. There's nothing here that a man can call exclusively his own, something that strictly belongs to man. That just doesn't exist anymore in Canada, no. Yet every single one of our cells either has male DNA or female DNA. And, it can be argued that the man has both. But the man also has something that sets him apart. That's the Y chromosome. And nature itself just teaches us that men are not women, that women are not men. And nature itself teaches us that, when push comes to shove and, things come down to a matter of survival, the women, take care of their children and mind the camp, and the men go out there to gather the food and protect the camp. They become hunters and gatherers, and as that society progresses, the women also take part in part of the gathering. They are helpmeets in the gathering process, but essentially there are different roles assigned to men, and these are very natural basic roles, and that is what the government is trying to rob us of, those basic roles. There was a time when a man actually was allowed to have a tract of land that he could call his own. He could actually grow food on it, and it was his own land. He owned the land. Today, all he has is a title to live on the land, which can be retracted from him at any time. And if the government actually believes that he's doing, anything criminal, whether he is or whether he isn't, it doesn't matter. They can confiscate his land, because it's not his land in the first place. All they can do, they can just take title of the land. A title is just a piece of paper that says you're entitled. Okay, that's what a title is. When you own title to the land, you own the piece of paper. You do not own the land. Okay, do you understand? And because of that, already one of your first basic fundamental rights of manhood has been stripped from you. You don't own, you're not allowed to have a piece of land you can call your own. And, grow some food on, raise some chickens on, and maybe even raise a family if you prosper. No, that's taken from you now. Okay, you're not allowed to have that in Canada. That's why I already know right there. That was my first indication when I read about this in The War Against the Family by William D. Girdner. um, when I discovered that this was the case, I realized, it's time to go. It's time to leave the city. And I did. And I tried to get land. And I tried to be a good father to my children. And, well, anyway, the system made that backfire in my face. I'm trying to warn young males out there. I'd like to say I'm trying to warn young men out there, but, I don't want to draw any attention here, because if you're a man, you know you're illegal. You're an illegal because you're a man. You do not have your dignity. You do not have your self-respect. You do not have your rite of passage into manhood as used to be with many cultures. Your first kill, something, okay, where you disappear into the wilderness for about a week by yourself, okay, and you come back with your name. Man's name meant something back then. No, those days are gone. And I'm telling you, I grieve about this, because people don't seem to understand what this means. They're robbing you of your identity, your very identity. And you're just becoming like cattle, slaves. And I'm wondering to myself, I am supposed to stand in public assembly and sing, "O Canada, the true north, strong and free." Free? Really? Free? Free? Am I free to be a man in Canada? Am I free to go out and select a patch of land and say, "This is my land. I don't need a piece of paper. This is my land. I'm claiming it. I'm a man"? No, they'll throw me in jail. Free? I'm not free to be a man, and you're not free to be a man either. It's against the law to be a man, young male living in Canada today. Just letting you know that. But I'm really debating something here. I'm debating listing a few things of what I believe it takes to be a real man. What it takes to be a real man in Canada. And I was working on, being a gentleman. I've been working on being a gentleman since in my early 20s, when I started realizing there really is a difference between just being a man and being a gentleman. That's even harder. Okay, that's seriously tough to be a gentleman in these days. It's a very noble endeavor, and it's not what television is telling you what a gentleman is, okay? It's not what Hollywood is telling you what a gentleman is. A gentleman actually really does consider the condition of others, his community, his family, and the welfare of little ones and the elderly. We live in a society where everybody is so trained that it's every man for himself, that we've lost sight of what it means to be civilized. The North American indigenous peoples that lived here in this once great nation were by far more civilized in the way we're behaving today. Because they understood some things. And I'm just going to leave this with you, because I'm going to leave after this. I'm telling you, this is a really grave issue. But I'll leave this with you. The indigenous peoples of Canada recognize two things: courage and kindness. If you want to be a real man, you have to have both. I'll leave that with you now. Think about what I'm saying, please. This is going to be a series. I'm just hoping there's some young men out there who can save this country. God bless you. God bless you, whoever you are out there. If you want to be a young man, God bless you.